responses. And I know the question sometimes comes up of, gee, how do we get access to the Google Play Store? And as an operation starts up, DST will assign a Google account to that particular operation. We have quite a few Google accounts, and we pick one and we send that information of the username and the password off to the DST lead, who shares it with their team. The only thing that we do like to ask people as a reminder, in particular when you're handing out phones and people are, ooh, Google. Google equates to Gmail, and we always put in our note to the lead that the associated Gmail account should not be used for Red Cross business related emails. The reason being, it's not a secured account. Anybody with one of our DST phones can very easily get in and read any of those emails that's being sent. That's the reason why we always tell people, please use a more secured email channel, such as your own Red Cross email account. If it means they go to a laptop, they go to a laptop. Very simple on that. Excuse me for the sniffling here, allergies. As far as downloading the apps, we try not to preload apps onto the phones for the users, because the users know which apps they need to put on there. And in some cases, those apps require a credential, and we don't need people coming back to DST and saying the app doesn't work. If an app does not work for a user of the cell phone, they need to talk to their supervisor to find out what's wrong with the app, or maybe it's just the wrong app that they're downloading. Pretty much we try to keep the password to the Google account pretty easy. It's always the word disaster in some kind of spelling, and the password is case sensitive, by the way. The username is not, so if they put it all in lowers or caps, it won't make any difference, but the password really is case sensitive. And when you get a case of phones, you'll need to check to see who you need to contact to get a verification code if you're asked for that. There are two of us that handle Google accounts. So check with your DST lead about, okay, which phone number do I call? Because we always ask that you call us first before you get a verification code. It's only like 1 to 3 phones that you have to go through now, thank goodness. And I can't think of anything else that really needs to be said about the Google account. So
okay,
I'll give it back over to you.
Well, let's see if there's anybody that has a question specifically about that before we open it up to other topics. So if anybody has a question to ask Cindy about using the Google apps on a DST Android phone.
Well, I see one in the chat here that, well, okay, so let me clear up the understanding about the iPhones. The iPhones are for the coronavirus response 251, and we shouldn't be seeing those out on a DR. And the RDO who received the iPhones already has all that information for accessing the Apple phones.
Right, those were supposed to be used. Those were to be used by the DAT teams, right, at the local level.
Right.
Or I suppose they could use it. They could use it for a larger response too, but probably not when they're getting to a level 3 or 4, which is when DST would be involved in, right?
Well, that's usually left up to the RDO, but those iPhones will be returned to DST. What we do with them, too far in the future to see right now.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not talking about them being returned, but.
So I'd like to just state, this is Tina, just that the iPhones were sent specifically for DAT responses. They are, I mean, we can't control if they use it for something else because it's a cost item, it's a line item. All that time, the data, whatever's used is going to be charged to the DAT response. If you're issuing them, if they're being used on a DR, that is inappropriate. So it's so just be mindful of it. Don't think that we are issuing iPhones. The iPhones are sent specifically for DAT responses. And if you take it on a DR, how is who the DAT responder doesn't have that phone now. So that's that's part of the rationale behind it all.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. I know I had heard a couple months ago, some people were saying that they, at the local level, you know, they were deciding to also use them then for DR response, but it sounds like that's really not a good idea because it's not going to get charged to the right account then, right?
Right. And so there's a question in there. I thought phones were sent directly to the users. When when a DRO, when you get notified that you asking if you, Gene, if you're being asked, we have a DR in Louisiana, are you willing to deploy? And you would say yes, and they would say, do you need a phone or a laptop to do the job that you're doing? And if you say yes, then RMS will send you a phone and a laptop or whatever you need. So they are sent directly to users, specifically for virtual users, supporters, workers. So I hope that answers that question. So
I think maybe, you know, since Cindy talked about when you get a case of phones and what to do with them as the DST person. So most of the time right now, you won't be getting that case of phones, right? Although there might
correct.
be cases where that would happen, but in general, no.
Everything is changes depending. Headsets will be requested. You need to request that needs to be requested also.
You know, for some reason, I am not seeing the chat. So
Well,
if you
anyway,
can watch it, Tina, that's great. I don't know
why
why it's
would
not
we
showing
get
up for me.
why would we get a case of phones? This is what the way again, remember every DR is different. Why would you get a case of phone? It really doesn't make sense that if we have to ship the phone to somebody, the shipping should come directly from the LFC. You should not be a person, or I should not be a person sitting in Oregon shipping phones to a person in another location. And shipping is the issue of the reason the shipping is when our equipment gets damaged. If it gets shipped from the LFC, it gets shipped properly so that it doesn't get damaged. If you are deploying, you will not get a phone or laptop shipped to you. If you are deploying, when you get there, you will arrive. If you are going physically to a DRO, before you go, they will ask you if you need a laptop or a phone, and that will get to you within a day as soon as you get notified. So you have to wait for your phone. Now, there's a possibility that you say, hey, I can't wait for that to come to me. Can you get it? Can it get shipped to wherever you're going to? Those are all things that we can't control every factor. It's not an absolute kind of situation. Now, it's possible, for example, in Louisiana and Texas, there are pre-staged equipment there. So it's possible you might end up getting there and then you will be able to get a laptop when you get there or a phone.
Right, but and I know right now with a lot of hurricane responses and stuff going on, some people are deploying in person, but in general, they're not doing that much in-person deployment, right? So that's why it's getting shipped to your home instead.
Right. I mean, like we say that, but they're right now in Texas, there are 1,000 people deployed on the ground. Okay, so.
That many? Wow, I didn't know that.
But it's not all DST people. There are,
Oh, no, of course
I don't
not.
know how many DST people, but you got to remember, it's and those 1,000 people that are on the ground are doing sheltering, and not
Right.
the shelter worker doesn't usually get a laptop.
Right. All right. So if there are no more questions about the App Store for Android phones, or the Play Store, I guess, not App Store, then other questions. And as I said in the announcement for this, we want to try and stay away from all of the questions about shipping and process and policies, because we covered that last month. Chuck DeLon covered it last week again in the all hands meeting. We have recordings of both of those. So let's try and focus on other issues that we haven't dealt with before. If you have questions about Teams or about different software apps, what kinds of support questions people are dealing with on DRs, those kinds of questions, we'd love to hear.
There's a question, Dick. What is DTP? Disaster Technology Procedures. Those are all the processes that define how you support our DST equipment in the field. And they are available if you have, you're part of the global group. It is in Volunteer Connection under Files. And they are just what, they are tested and proven to work. So if you're configuring a phone, use the DTP. If you need to call for help, we will always, ask you, did you follow the DTP and where are you on the DTP?
And since I had Volunteer Connection open already, I'm going to show that, Tina.
Okay.
I'm in the disaster group share, and on the files tab here. And the category here is disaster technology procedures. And if you open that up, you'll see the latest version. And you can download whichever activities procedures it is that you're looking for. They'll be downloaded as a zip file.
Giorgio Pesci, who says, I don't see how to raise your hand. Do you want to go ahead and take yourself off mute and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. My Teams doesn't show, I think, the icon for hand raising.
Okay, are you logged in as you're a guest, so that's part of the reason.
Oh.
So you need to use if you have Red Cross credentials, to log into it with your Red Cross credentials.
Oh, okay. Okay. It's a minor point though.
Yeah, but that is true. I think the guests don't see that hand raising. I think we discovered that before. So.
Oh, okay.
Also,
so what is your question?
No, that was it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for that question. Also, as a teachable moment in Teams, if you download the app, you get more features than when you're just using it in a browser.
Yes, that's true.
FYI.
That's true.
There's a question in there. I'll leave that. Has anyone deployed virtually to a DR? What was the experience? What help did you provide virtually?
Is there anybody on tonight who has been on a virtual DR? I know Saroj was here, but she had to leave to go to another meeting. So
Steve here, Richmond.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, I was deployed for Hurricane Isaias, Virginia, and found myself as DST lead, and it was a hybrid virtual and physical deployment. It was actually quite interesting. We had phones and laptops shipped to a location, it was the wrong location. It was shipped to a logistics location. It should have been shipped to an in-processing location so that people could be married with equipment. And it worked out very well with the help of all the AD leads. It was pretty much a single person operation. And it took a lot of help to make it work, but it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and I think what you're describing there, that, you know, it was a mixed response. I think that's pretty typical for what's going on right now when we have a lot of these big disasters that we're responding to. And as Tina said, no two of them are going to look alike. So the way that yours went is not necessarily the way the next one is going to go, right? So you just need to stay flexible and keep checking in with DST at the dock if you have questions about what's happening.
I'd like to say that that's true. However, the service that you're providing does not change. People cannot print, people can't get connected to the internet, people can't, get to SharePoint, don't know how to use Teams. All that is going to be the same, whichever DR you're on. It's just how you're going to support that. So that's why the DTPs are important. That's why knowing how to navigate in Teams is important. And so.
Actually, Tina, if I can just add to that, yes, that's true. We're going to do all the same things, but that's where it starts to make a difference. If somebody is deployed virtually from their home, you're not going to be able to help them with their printing, right? If they are.
That's not true. That's not true, because I have helped people using Teams to connect a DST laptop to their home printer.
If they have a home printer. Okay. Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. But that's going to be different than if they're working in a shelter and there's a printer set up there and it's a DST printer, right? So, yep. You just gotta be sure to ask whether the person you're trying to help is deployed virtually or physically at a center. Steve, did you want to add to that?
Yes, I just wanted to say that without this help of Cindy and Tina, it would have been impossible. They were absolutely fabulous.
They're great, aren't they?
Well, thank you. And the one thing I really want to inject here is for anyone who's doing virtual helping folks, be patient. Be very, very patient with them. Some people may not know what you're asking them to do because you're not there to push the buttons, click the mouse, or whatever. You have to let them do that. And as Tina said, hey, if they can share their desktop with you, that's all the better, because then you can guide them a little bit more. We do this quite frequently, and we have to really listen, and that's how we're able to help people like Steve, is because we listen and we'll ask questions. Sometimes they're pretty hilarious.
Don't forget, people can hear your smile or your frown or your frustration. So your tone is very important.
Yep. That's a great point, Cindy, because it's dealing with support over the phone or even over Teams is very different than dealing with it in person when you can walk over to the table where they're sitting and help them that way, right? So you do need to be patient and you do need to listen and ask a lot of questions, right?
Dick had Patrick.
Yes, go ahead, Dick.
Question.
Yeah, my next question is, I typed it in the chat, and it's, can documents be created in Teams? And I want to clarify that. I know you can use SharePoint and create documents, but the question is more, can those documents be created in Teams? That is there some sort of Word type application within Teams that you use?
You just create it in Word and then post it in Teams. There's a files folder.
Right. Okay, and so you call the Word app and create it in Word and then post it in files.
Yep.
Correct.
Because Teams is part of Office 365. Right. So if you've got Office 365 to get Teams, then you also have the Word app. Okay. It may not be installed on the computer, but you can use the web version of it, right? Okay. And then save and then post the document in Teams. Still post in files. Okay, and relatedly, I seem to have lost my plus sign on my tabs line. Can't find it. Does it just disappear on its own? Do I have to do something to reestablish it?
Okay, Steve had a question again. Steve?
Tina, sorry, really, Dick had just asked another question.
Who?
Go ahead.
I think, isn't that somebody just asked about the plus sign disappearing?
Yeah, that was me. I was following on in my prior question, but I can shut up and we'll follow up, Steve.
Okay.
There's no need to shut up. This is here for everyone. One thing I've noticed that's related to this is the DRs seem to be getting away from email and relying on the use of Teams. One of the first things I did was set up a DST channel within the DRO team. And that was my repository and ability to communicate with DST folks, and also to give IP the ability to observe reports. And so the sitrep was generated, saved in files under the DST channel, and it was available to everyone that needed it. Thank you.
And Steve Bonine had his hand up too, I see.
I just wanted to say that if you are in your Teams page and go to the Files tab, there is a new option there that you can use to create new Word documents or Excel spreadsheets. Or
Can you say that once again, Steve? You're coming through a little soft and muffled.
I should put on my headphones. I'm sorry. If you are in your Teams page and click on one of the options there is new. And if you click on new, you can create a new Word document, Excel workbook, PowerPoint presentation, or OneNote notebook. Maybe I should create it to find out what it is.
I didn't know that. Thank you. Randy, we'll get to you in a second. Let's pick up that other question that Dick Patrick had.
My other question was related to something that maybe what Steve was just saying, but there used to be on my tab line at the right-hand side a plus sign. And I click on that and it would open up this very large document that had, I'm going to say, a dozen or 24 additional applications. And it doesn't show up on my Teams document anymore. And I'm wondering if I did something to delete it, or why it went away, or what I need to do to find it again.
Tina or Steve, anybody got an idea?
In the left column, ellipsis, you may find what you're looking for. The 3 dots on the left column. Left sidebar.
I think I'm not looking in the right place. Can you be more specific?
Sorry, I'm looking at my Teams page, and there's a left sidebar with activity, chat, Teams, calendar, calls, files, and ellipsis, the three dots.
Right, I got that, and there's the plus sign is there. It doesn't really matter to me where it is, so I think that answers that question. Thank you.
Okay.
I would say also, though, Dick, if all else fails, I would unload, I mean, remove Teams and then re-download it, because Teams is always making lots of new updates to it, without letting you know. So you don't lose anything. So that would be a solution too.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I'm noticing, Tina, that I haven't updated it yet on my laptop. Normally I log into here on my home desktop computer, and this is an old version, so I need to update it.
And one last comment. You have to have the privileges to be able to add those tabs. If you are not the owner of the team may not have given you the privileges to add tabs, and so the plus mark wouldn't be there.
Oh, that's a good point, Steve, because I did restrict quite a bit of the permissions on this team, and I don't remember whether tabs was one of them or not, but that could be the case.
Follow-up question on upgrading Teams. So was the suggestion to delete it from my hard drive, for example, and then reinstall it as a new document or as a new application?
Yeah.
I respectfully disagree that it would be easier to go to the Teams download site and download the file and reinstall it. The reinstall should take care of wiping out the stuff that needs to be wiped out.
Right. I mean, I guess I misspoke. You don't need to delete it. It just replaces what you have there.
And when the replacement happens, it just automatically keeps all the files and the channels and all that stuff that were on the old version?
Yes.
Yeah, because those are not on your hard drive.
Well, there is stuff on your hard drive, but I suspect this has happened already for you because Teams checks for updates in the background and updates itself. So you've probably gone through this process and didn't even know it.
All right. I see Randy has his hand up too, and then Eric.
Yes. Actually, I understand we're going to be doing a lot of support on Teams, and you can actually, the end user can actually share with you, and you can actually take control of their personal computers on their desktop. So, I mean, that's the best way to take control of their machine and load the printers and whatever they need. But I haven't tested the DST laptops yet, so I don't know can we do that or not. But you can actually take control of the personal laptops they have or desktop. So
yes, the answer is yes. Everything you can do on your own personal computer, you can do on the DST computer.
And sometimes I think you're right that it is easier to just do it for them if it's something they're never going to have to do again. If it's something that they should probably know how to do, then that may not be the best way. You want to see what they're looking at and talk them through how to do it, right? All right, thanks for that question, Randy. Eric, you want to go ahead and ask your question? And then we probably should get ready to wrap up.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. I apologize. I came into this late. I kind of forgot about this afternoon, so I just wanted to make a comment because I think maybe it's something that not everybody, a lot of people probably know, but some don't, is that Teams and SharePoint, as you said, it's all part of the 365 family. SharePoint is actually the back end for Teams. I didn't even pick up on it immediately when I created our regional DST site. I all of a sudden realized one day I went into SharePoint and there's a SharePoint group with the same name as the team I had created. And when you create a team, it creates a section in SharePoint that you can access directly, which is where all the files and everything that you see, where you access in Teams, you can also access directly from SharePoint.
Thank you for that, Eric. That is true. That doesn't mean that you need to rush out and learn SharePoint in case you're feeling like, oh no, I don't know SharePoint. But it is true. They are connected. Yep. And if you know SharePoint or want to learn it, you can do other things with it through there, but there's no pressure to do that. All right, we should wrap up. I do want to mention that we have a session scheduled for September 3rd, which is next week already. And we're going to have several people helping us demonstrate how to get rid of echo on a Teams meeting. We have several different solutions for that. And I expect to get that email sent out either the end of this week or else early next week. So you can watch for that link, but go ahead and mark the time on your calendar now. And then we'll get the rest of the September schedule sent out as well.
Susan, there's just one question real quick. I'm going to answer it. Matt Hackman asked how to get deployed in DST. Make sure your availability is in. Make sure you talk to your DWE, get to know them, and get brushed up on your DTPs if you're doing virtual deployment for sure. And that's how you get deployed.
And if you're going to be physically deployed and setting up equipment, you can also brush up by watching the videos on the DST YouTube channel too, that shows how to set up some of the equipment. And if you aren't familiar with that, you can just go to YouTube and search for DST training videos. That's the name of the channel. All right, thank you for all the great questions. Thank you so much to Tina and Cindy for responding to questions, and to Cindy for reminding people how to use the Google Play Store on the Android phones. And thank you everybody for attending. We will look forward to seeing you next week.
Susan, one last question.
Yes.
I see a question here about people wanting to practice Teams, what have you. What I've seen in other meetings is occasionally people will volunteer their name and email, and we could get together outside of this environment for those of us that have Teams access and practice, interact with one another. I don't know if you want to encourage that. Thank you.
We definitely would encourage that. And, not only just practice starting a meeting and practice doing things in there, but you can practice doing the screen sharing and helping somebody with a support call via, looking at their screen, that kind of thing. I think that's a great idea. If anybody that's on right now would be interested in doing that, go ahead and put a comment in the chat. If you don't know already, even after we end the session, that chat is going to stay there. So you can come back and look at that later. If you say that you want to help and ask people to leave their email address for you to contact them, you can come back tomorrow or Friday and check and see who's interested. So that's a great idea. Thank you for asking. All right. Have a good evening, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Good night.